Yeah, agreed.
Are you on?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Should I take it in here?
yeah, you take it up here. I'll go.
All right, thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I feel way better. Guys, don't worry about tomorrow. It's up to you.
Well, I'm gonna invite Rich and
Because I was actually. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'll be right with you.
Not to worry. Take your time.
I was thinking of going to Laura's too.
Well, what time is that?
It's at the same time, so I was gonna walk down the street, watch it,
Okay.
because I haven't seen it.
Me neither.
So I was gonna watch
Okay,
hers and then walk back to the Q&A.
So maybe that's what we coordinate.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we do.
All right.
What time is yours? 9:36.
It's 9. So I think I don't know if I'm gonna do my intro.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I agree. Okay.
So, welcome to Heart Connect Media.
Great. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Our humble pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We,
Go ahead.
Yeah, Heart Connect Media is kind of, we're like the alternative media.
Right.
We're like some moms in kitchens media.
Yeah,
That's all right.
exactly.
We're tired of the fear-based media, so we're like tuning out and then talking about people that are actually healing and actually like doing good things, because we're setting out to prove that the world actually is a good place. And if you turn off your TV, you might learn something.
All right. It is a good place, and let's just try to make it better.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
It is a good place. And I mean, there's hazards in the game, right?
Yeah.
There's hazards in the game. Like, you know, we're like sovereignty fighters, you know, like natural humans, like we can govern ourselves, you know, like this conversation is free from corporate influence.
Yeah.
It's free from religious connotations.
Yeah.
It's we're happy to offend people, provided it's in the name of truth and education.
Right. Okay.
And yeah,
Hopefully we're not going to offend anyone with this one.
no. Well, that's my job, maybe. Just kidding. We don't offend anyone.
It's my job to sweep it all up afterwards and go, it's
Yeah.
okay.
She has to spin it properly. Just kidding. We don't do that either. It's
Yeah.
just raw cut. We phone you. We have a conversation about your story. That's it.
Right.
And I have a healthcare background, working in the private sector, owning clinics and publications. I ran a juice company for a while, and also I own a marketing agency where I just help people that are helping. So I am like, I can't even wait for Tracy to start the interview, because I'm just like, purpose is coming out of me like a fire hydrant right now, just waiting for your story. So,
And by interview, she means just a conversation about
chit chat.
what's going on with you.
Sure.
Yeah. We haven't had a chance to watch a documentary, unfortunately.
That's okay.
But I think
the trailer had me at bawling
Oh,
while
yeah.
I was driving.
Yeah. I think I watched it 4 times and I cried 3 out of the 4 times. 'Cause
Oh, well.
we get it. You know, we get your struggle and we get the politics of it. And so why don't you start with who you are and, you know, when you got diagnosed with MS, how did that ball start rolling? What was your trigger point?
Trigger point in regards to making the documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, quite a while ago. And we went through my father, luckily, he did a substantial amount of research, and he developed, science-based strategies in how I, would be able to implement into my life to control the effects of the disease. And I ended up getting better and staying in remission for a long period of time now. And this is a story that we've been sharing since the 90s, to be honest.
Wow.
It goes way back. And I've spoken publicly about this all the way back, really publicly, all the way back to 1997, I believe. This made national news in the early 2000s. And we've just been trying to get the information out there. And so we did a variety of things where I created a website called mshope.com. And that was an open, free resource of information for people all over the world. The website ended up touching, I think it was over 70 countries in the first week we launched it with patients.
Wow.
And we had significant interest in the content and in the story. And as time went on, we started to film. And I'm a documentary filmmaker by trade. That's my job.
Right.
Like, this isn't my job. A lot of people don't get that. Like, my advocacy work is volunteer. Like, that's not, I'm a filmmaker. So we decided to start filming at one point and to capture the story. And because I also knew that documentary filmmaking is a really valuable and important way how to reach patients and people around the world. That's how the journey started.
Wow.
Awesome. Wow. So your dad has been a huge help to you. So I think a lot of people have a lot of disconnection with their parents, and I think seeing you and your dad with the relationship that you have is pretty profound. What is your relationship with your dad? Like, just explain it a little bit if people don't know already.
Yeah, I mean, my dad and I, we've been really close since I was a little boy. You know, I mean, I remember even growing up, I would say he was my dad, but he was also a really good friend.
Yeah.
And so people have to understand, like, he was like my basketball coach in high school. Like,
oh wow.
So when he went to the medical library and came back and gave me advice, you know, to be honest, at the beginning, I don't think I really even got into the research. I just did what he said.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, okay, Dad says this. You know, I believe him in that. Yeah, so I did it. And I think that, you know, as I got older and, you know, obviously matured and we started to work and I also shared his frustrations in regards to reaching patients with this information.
Yeah.
Right? That was a huge trigger point, to your point.
Yeah.
That, you know, I started to really get frustrated by the lack of traction or like not seeing it in a global way that I thought would be really accessible to patients. And being a marketing specialist and a specialist in my field, I knew I could help give his voice or his research a really clear medium to communicate it through.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's what we started doing together. And again, this is volunteer.
Yeah.
So like this whole thing, most people that have to understand, came from like 3 people sitting around a kitchen table, like 3.5 years ago or 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Media station started the same way on a stoop.
Yeah.
On a stoop.
Okay, let's stop talking about what should be going on and start doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a quick question just about, because I haven't seen the documentary. How long was the period of time between your diagnosis and when you were able to declare, like, I'm fully recovered? Like, how long did you live with it?
I mean, full recovery kind of falls into that same camp for me as the word cure. Like, I don't necessarily know if you're ever fully recovered or if there's, you know, we by no means say there's a cure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, am I symptom free today? Yes.
Yeah.
Like, do I feel like I'm in recovery? Yes. But do I also feel like I'm in remission? Yes.
Okay.
I would think that, and that's the question, like, what kind of symptoms do you have? And for me, that's how that's my litmus test for how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think what we learned in the process of the documentary is multiple sclerosis is one of those things that when you're diagnosed, we really question, does it ever go away? That we don't know. But the question is, can you control it? Right?
Yeah.
So, does that answer your question?
It definitely does. So how long was the period of time? Like, how long were you frustrated? Like, how long were you afflicted in a severe way by the symptoms until something turned? Like, what happened when it started to turn?
Well, I mean, I think that the height of my symptoms was, I think, you know, because to be honest, and I've said this publicly, I did take one course of prednisone treatment.
Right.
At the beginning, right? That's the only MS drugs I've ever done. And I stand by the fact that, like, they did suppress some of my symptoms. I know it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure.
That initial prednisone. And then we started the diet, we started the therapies. I think it was like within a month after diagnosis, we started it. And then it was between 4 and 6 months where the symptoms were, I think, almost completely gone.
Wow.
But again, I think it's really important to, like, I am today too, very strict.
Yeah.
And this is a hard thing to get across to people, is compliance.
Can you talk about that? What does that look like day to day?
It's really controlling what you eat at every single meal. And but I mean, it's been years now. I mean, I don't want to say how many years because it gives away a spoiler in the film, but I'm sure if you Google it, you'll see it, but I don't want to wreck the film.
No, let's not do that.
But and then it's about, trying to get to the gym every single day, most days, right? It's about taking the supplements. It's about, the how people, I guess, refer to it today as mindful practices, right? All of these kind of things that add up. And I think that with, if you've been to my website, mshope.com, you'll see that the strategies that I talk about force you to be thinking about what you're doing with your body, like at least 3 or 4 times a day.
Right.
Like at every meal, you have the opportunity to say, am I controlling what I'm putting in my mouth? And if you believe that diet is an effect, then therefore you're controlling your disease.
So it's very much a food is medicine practice.
Yes, yeah. And diet is a huge component to what we talk about. And vitamin D is huge. And then exercise is also a major part of this program. Amazing.
How are you distributing this film? Like, is it private screenings, or are you getting into theaters?
So right now it's in select festivals that have accepted it. And again, I want to be clear, like, this is a huge surprise for us. I mean, the fact that the Toronto International Film Festival accepted it was beyond our dreams.
Well, cheers to you for sending it in,
we were shocked.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Not beyond our dreams, but it was like, what the? And then we're kind of in that, what do we do? Like, because now all of a sudden it's on a global scale, right? And then we've had sold out audiences. We're getting multiple standing ovations. We're getting, we're getting nice reviews from really credible magazines. And so, I mean, we're likely, and I don't want to say too much, but we're likely going to have a theatrical run in the US. And then it'll be available on a digital platform, something like an iTunes or an Amazon, likely. And in Canada, we'll likely try our best to work with BDU, so it's available on VOD, right? And we're trying to get it out. I mean, it's really important to me to get this information out as soon as we can.
For sure.
Well, because everybody knows somebody that is inflicted.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't want to delay. So the faster we can do it, and the more accessible people like you and people around the world can get it, the happier we're going to be.
Yeah.
So Tracy is the master of all things hashtag and directing traffic. So we'll leave that to her and trust that everything we can send as many people as we can your way. And what is it that you want people to do with the information? Like, are they able to, like, when you look as like a visionary out over our society here, the information is powerful on a personal level. What can people do in communities with your information to support each other?
It's a great question, because we get asked that a lot, right? Like, what do we do now? Especially after people see the film.
Because it's a full-time job to maintain your health.
Yeah, right. And I think that, like, what people can do, number one, watch the movie, right?
Right. Yes, and we both commit to that.
Yeah.
We were just
and then number two. Yeah, and then number two, it's like, if it does help your life, like if you want to implement, like if you want the takeaways, like either implement some of the strategies into your life and see what happens. And then number three, share the content.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think people ask me, are we going to write letters? Are we going to do this? And it's like, I don't know, like what to what end will that, like, what are we to achieve? Do we need more research? Yes, no question. Right.
Yeah.
But that's a very big question on how that works. But the question is, we need to get the information out.
Yeah, it's more influence, right? Like needing to influence, like if you can show it to a medical doctor, like it might be uncomfortable and like at least they've seen it, like it's good.
Right. Well, we've had multiple doctors come to the screenings, like multiple. We had a screening where, doctors were crying. 2 doctors, they were crying after the show. I mean, this is not just about the patient population. It is like we're trying to help, but this is also about doctors who are frustrated, who aren't seeing their patients get better.
Yeah, the symptomology, like, you know, in my clinic, we used to see 1,600 clients a month. And there was a percentage of them that for sure had a MS diagnosis. And like, even as a holistic therapist, it's like, I don't have answers. Like, I know to nourish the nervous system, and I can't wait to watch your documentary, because it's like, even as a holistic therapist, alternative medicine practitioner, even with Chinese medicine, it's like, we can just control symptoms. So like, what is getting to the core of it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that you can actually say, I can control my symptoms today.
Right.
That's what freedom is having a choice.
That's right. And I think that's exactly what we say. Because when you see the film, and if you've seen me speak in the past, we don't say you must do this. You know, we're not saying this is the only way. We're just saying, like, this is what I've done. If it works for you and you like the science that we're also providing, that's awesome. Like, that's great. But give it a shot, and at least have the information so you have the choice to do it.
Well, and that's just it. I think that's what we see a lot of is you get these diagnoses and you're stuck. And you feel stuck because the medical community is saying, well, no, this is your life. This is it. And you're going to have to deal with it. And here's a bunch of drugs that you can take that might work, you know, and, you know, good luck to you.
Right.
What? No.
You know, people ask me, like, should I take this drug? Like, what should I do? Right. Like, you know, the only thing I can do is control this with, say, like, I mean, working in Canada for the last 15 years, I had a large population of people that were controlling all of their symptoms, whether they were mood, pain, nervous system, whatever, with cannabis, right? And they were doing it, and they could tell me that, but they wouldn't feel comfortable telling their MD, right? Because I'm like their holistic therapist, or giving them a massage or a foot rub or whatever, and they'd, you know, confide in me. And what I say to people, and I say to people really loudly, I can't legally give you any advice about pharmacy. What I can say is the future of that prescription doesn't end.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the refills, right? So it's like, question that and then make a plan, right? Maybe I'll do it for 3 months.
Yeah. And I think it's also really important to note, and I'd say this publicly as well, is like, I'm not anti-drugs.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that I don't want to be put in that camp where, and I'm like, if drugs are effective, I think that could be really powerful, right? And I think that these are the hard questions that we ask.
Well, and I don't even think whether it's a drug or a therapy or a mantra that you should take it without it being your choice.
Right.
Like, understand what you're embarking on. Don't just take a piece of paper and go hand it in and say, this is what I do about this. Like, if you took that piece of paper and said, okay, I'm going to figure out nutrition, I'm going to maybe consult a homeopath and see like the other side of the spectrum, or, you know, go to a sweat lodge, or, you know, like, expand your horizons a little bit, instead of just being like, oh, my doctor says three times a day. And like, I agree too. There's a lot of times that antidepressants will win the day. And there's a lot of times that pain meds, my God, like, we've all had children, right? Like it wins the day sometimes, you know, surgeries, all kinds of things, you know, obviously they have a place. However, when we start to treat chronic illness with them is where we need to go back to the source of what we're talking about. Like, when did these symptoms start cropping up? You know, we talk a lot about colonization and, the Industrial Revolution being the dawn of, you know, a lot of this stuff, when we started to disconnect from nature and started to, you know, our bodies started to do different types of things. So my question is, like, what is your theory behind MS? Like, where did it, you know, was it random? Was it just pop?
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, like, I'm not a doctor or a researcher.
Oh, for sure. I don't want to ask hard questions. I'm curious.
Oh yeah, no, that's totally fine. And I think that I kind of stay away from that one, because
that's fair.
I see MS as like a quilt, right? There's like a lot of components.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that it's like, well, that's why my dad's diet is called the best bet.
Yeah.
And, okay, this is a really complicated disease.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really smart people thinking about this.
Yeah.
Still haven't got it. So I don't know. But I think that, okay, here's our best bet approach to, if you do have the misfortune of getting the diagnosis, what you can at least try.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a lot of merit to people's personal experience too. Like, with you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to diagnose you, but this is what's worked for me with this disease. And I think the message that I really got from you and what you talk about is there's always hope.
Right.
You don't have to take that diagnosis and then do everything that the one doctor says. Go to a couple of doctors.
Yeah.
Talk to other sufferers. Get lots and lots of information before you.
Yeah.
Well, what I
basically die before you die.
I agree, and I think that what your point about there being hope is really important.
Yeah.
And I think that I see what we're doing, mshope.com, and this film as a legacy project to work that's already been done.
Yeah.
So, when you see the film, you'll see Judy Graham in it, right? And Judy Graham wrote, she wrote the Naturally something Multiple Sclerosis. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head the book she wrote. I think that was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right. And that book for me, when I was first diagnosed at 19, like that gave me hope.
Yeah.
Right. I heard her journey. I read it and I thought, oh my, she's actually in the film. We actually go meet her.
Yeah. I think I saw a clip with her, and she was the one who was also threatened by the MS Society, right?
Yeah.
For what she published.
Right.
Yeah.
But like that gave me hope. So when you see the film, you're going to see that I also understand and that this is a legacy project, that this is an extension of Judy's work. It's an extension of Dr. Roy Swank's work. It's, or Dr. Jelinek as well. It's just an extension. It's another piece of the puzzle or to give patients hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that's true medicine. Even if you're not a doctor per se, to take someone's idea that's been implemented and worked, and then keep building on it with more experience and more research. And to me, it's like the establishment today, that's what's lost.
Absolutely.
This is what we have, and this is what we have moving forward. And I don't want to hear from you because you're not a doctor.
For sure.
There's so much more to it than that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the documentary.
And I think where the doc's really powerful too is that you get to watch someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we call it living proof. It's not only living proof of my story, but it's living proof of other people's stories.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so it's like, if you're just diagnosed and you're 20 years old and you watch this film and like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah. I'm going to that website now.
I just watched this guy's life play out over X number of years, but like, you can't really hide from the camera. It either happened or it didn't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, wow. It's inspiring. Like I follow Gabor Mate's work. Are you familiar with Gabor Mate? No. He's a physician that works on the Lower East Side, Hastings in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
And he's working with, of course, he works tirelessly. He works in criminology. He works in social work, addiction studies. He's like, I think he's in his early 70s, and his calendar is just like, he's just nonstop. And, he's worked in Mexico and Peru with a lot of these plant medicines that they've been working with for millennia. And, it's touchy and it's edgy, and, you just have to keep telling your story and just like inch it forward. And as soon as that research and development comes in, then it's like, that's when things get really powerful and easy for people to access. Like until then, you're pioneering and just using your voice. And I just really want to acknowledge you, Mark, for just even that. Like that's like a feat of humanity, right? Like to just say, you know what, I'm willing to put my face here. I'm willing to put myself in people's living rooms as a testimony to everything being possible. And I just want to high five you on the Zoom.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I really appreciate that, but I think it's also really important to know that there's a big team behind me. You know what I mean? And I think
that's what every great leader says, Mark. That's what every great leader says. And we acknowledge your team, and it's you. That's, I just want to like bring it back to you. I know you have people supporting you, and to be someone on the planet that's okay sharing like such a vulnerable time in their life in order to, that it might help one person, two people, a family, it's like, it's just mad props, man. Mad props.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's, your movie is still showing in Calgary, yes?
Yeah. it's still showing. Like I said, we've had 2 sold out crowds, and there's one more screening at 9:30 on Saturday. I'll be there for a Q&A at the end.
Wow, great.
And then we're going to try our absolute best to tell people when they can go check it out. And like I said, we're hoping within 90 days before Christmas is our goal.
Right on.
And
well, let us know. I would like to put a couple of those under people's Christmas trees.
Right, and another thing too,
for sure.
and also for people to know that mshope.com will continue to have free information, and there's more stuff coming. So we're at a little bit of a hiatus for content because we're focused on the film right now.
Right.
No
But
problem.
there'll be more up-to-date stuff that we've shot more videos, and so I mean it's going to be an ongoing. It'll always be free, donation free. This is what my mandate is, and it will, so patients can get the info.
Yeah. So we'll put all of that information up on the video link as well as the YouTube and all that kind of stuff too.
Thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
And we'll stay following it too. Like we just had a week of like amazing men.
Yeah.
It was just like amazing men week. Like, just, like you know,
pioneer men. Yeah.
We had like Scott Hutchison, who's creating this energy rich day and just talking about like consciousness and freeing up the body and getting together in community. And we interviewed Bruce Buffalo, who is standing to connect internet for the 4 reserves around him. There's 16,000 people there that don't have access to free internet. And we launched that campaign this week too. And now you know, telling your story so generously, and you know, just we like to call it sacred leadership. You know, it is the unpaid leadership, and it's the people that, you know, wear their pain so gracefully and turn it into purpose that we salute on your show. So
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, have a great day.
All right, you as well, Mark.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.